know, there's a point in my life I thought I was a mentor for Nick Wright. It was a respectful relationship. Then it took an ugly turn about a year ago, and he has so much fun mocking me. It is sometimes it's testy. But I've got to be honest, he has called this all year. All year, Nick Wright doubted the Clippers. And he kept saying chemistry is bad, load management's nonsense. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing. You cannot wipe the smile off Nick Wright's face. I mean, look at him. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hi. Let me fix my hair. How's it going?
No, I'm not doing great. Most days I wake up and there's rainbows and birds. Today, it's a big stink ball. But you know what? So let's just start with this.
Colin.
What?
Can I, before we even start, can I make you feel better?
Okay.
Let me make you feel better. Everyone thinks I'm going to come on here and I'm going to hammer you.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You were obviously wrong about the Lakers-Nuggets series.
Yeah.
But so was every single prognosticator in America. You were also wrong about the Clippers-Nuggets series, I should say, about the Clippers winning the title. But so was about 40 to 50% of the prognosticators in America. You're just in a bad spot because the only person who had the Clippers dead right all year, you got to talk to every week. Every week I tried to tell you. I warned you. There were all the warning signs. Doc's history. Kawhi being wildly overrated by folks that want to say he could be top 5 all time. Way off P, acting like he's been a great playoff performer in anything other than a Gatorade commercial. All of it. I tried to warn you, my friend, but now go ahead. You can have your show back. So
well, let's do this.
Baker?
Let's start with this. I started my show saying we all make choices in life. He could have stayed in Toronto with the best GM coach combo in the league. He could have gone to LeBron and AD. Is it as simple as he chose Paul George in a losing franchise? He made a bad decision. Is it that simple?
Well, that didn't help, but I would say the choice that Kawhi really should have made would have been to play better. That's the first choice I would make. Hey, Kawhi, don't be awful in the second half of these games. You disrespect the regular season in total all year long, so you are ramping up for the postseason. And in the first round, while your offensive numbers were great, a 21-year-old Slovenian kid was giving you buckets all day long. And then in round 2, and I don't know if we can show it. I don't know if I can use some of my graphics on your show. It's kind of rude. But Kawhi Leonard's first half versus second half is abysmal in this series.
Yeah.
That's 30% shooting. And oh, wait, there's more. How about just the fourth quarters? For the clutch closer who can win another finals MVP. Show me his fourth quarters if we could. Oh, that's horrifying. 3 of the 7 games in this series, Kawhi with 0 fourth quarter points. Last night, 0 fourth quarter points. 1 second half field goal. So yeah, should he, option 1, go to LA with LeBron, win titles. Sure. Option 2, stay in Toronto, a team that got just as far as the Clippers this year in the postseason and didn't suffer the embarrassment of being blown out in their Game 7 round 2 loss. That would have been a good one. Option 3, go to the Clippers and not make them trade everything for Paul George so you can actually get a rim protector. Option 4 is the one he did. But option 4 was never going to end in a title. I told you that. But it could have ended at least in the team's first conference finals appearance if he wasn't awful in the second half of these games. And I just missed it. You and the real upper tier of broadcasters in America must be on a text chain that I'm not included in yet. Maybe I never will be, because evidently there was an embargo on Kawhi Leonard criticism. Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Green last night. Love them all. Hey, were they aware Kawhi was 1 of 11? Should have let the audience know. I don't know. The fact that he melted down in the fourth quarters of these games seems relevant for a guy I was told is the closest thing we've seen to Jordan since Kobe. But listen, what do I know? I'm just the guy that called this all year. So who knows? Who knows?
Okay. So how about this? For years and years, the Red Sox had as much talent as the Yankees, but they just couldn't get past it. Until you win it, it's hard. Is some of this sort of institutional, they've always been the shrinking franchise and they don't get far enough? Is it fair to say, and I hate this word, the Clippers frankly choked? Is that fair?
The second part's definitely fair. I don't know if we can put the juju of the organization on them, but this is arguably the single biggest gag job in NBA history. So we know the 3-1 comebacks, the contemporary ones that you think of, teams that could win the title who blew a 3-1 lead. At least when KD did it with the Thunder, they were playing an all-time Warriors team. At least when the Warriors did it to LeBron, they were playing the greatest player of all time. They're playing a team who has 0 on the roster finals appearances. Only one guy has made a conference finals. That's Paul Millsap, a coach who got fired in Sacramento. A 22-year-old kid in Jamal Murray. Nikola Jokic, who's got a lower vertical leap than Joy Taylor. And listen, he was great. But to blow that lead and to then after the game say, oh, it was chemistry. You were up 15 in Game 5 and gagged. You were up 19 in the second half of Game 6 and gagged. And these front runners that all year long, if they got punched back, they were like, why try when you can just wait for tomorrow? We're up 7 in the second half last night. The Nuggets go on an 8-0 run, and everyone, including your patron saint of basketball, Kawhi Leonard, said, this moment's too much for me. And I want to say one more thing on Kawhi, because obviously he was unbelievable last year in the postseason. But what we are seeing is this was the first playoff run in his career where if his team underachieved, he was going to get skewered. The exact scenario LeBron's been living in for 15 years. And guess what happened?
Yeah.
The weight of expectations held him down. Obviously, it crushed way off P the whole time, but he's not in the conversation for best players alive. Kawhi shouldn't have been anyway, but certainly now that's a wrap. It's LeBron, KD when he gets healthy, and we'll see what happens with Giannis. But that story is now over for one Kawhi Leonard for the time being.
Well, Kawhi also didn't have to create chemistry in San Antonio. An old team had it when he arrived. He didn't have to create it in Toronto. The old team had it when he arrived. He was asked in L.A. to create chemistry, and he's fairly nonverbal. You do bring up Paul George. This sounds hyperbolic, perhaps, but I now have multiple histories of Westbrook and Paul George and Harden. And you're not going to trade Harden. But would you consider going, the Paul George thing, we know what it is. Why just go through this again? Kawhi's got an opt-out year coming up fairly quick. Do you move off Paul George? Do you move off him?
Well, I think what might be more likely is they move off the coach. Everyone loves Doc Rivers as a man. He is a great leader, and I think he's a great person. But he has authored some really, really awful playoff performances with favored teams.
Yeah, that's fair.
And his playoff resume, when he doesn't have Kevin Garnett with him, is a really, really tough one. 6 times he's been up 3-1 or 3-2 and lost a series. The problem for trading Paul George is this. He also has that opt-out. So how much value does Paul George have for a team that feels like they're only going to get him for 1 year? Like, if you called up OKC and were like, hey, can we have those 6 first-round picks, SGA and Gallinari, for Paul George? Can we just undo that? They would laugh you off the phone. Like, I don't know what Paul George trade is available out there. And listen, the Clippers are going to have the same issues next year they had this year. It is an odd roster. That's the thing America refused to acknowledge, partially because of your endless propaganda. They had a bunch of DHs. You had Patrick Beverley, who is a tremendous defensive player and stinks on offense. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, who are tremendous offensive players and stink on defense. They have no rim protection, and they have a coach who all of a sudden it's game 7, early second half, and he's so anxious it's like, Reggie Jackson, go in the game even though you haven't played in 5 days. So that's who they're going to have next year. They might lose Marcus Morris. They might lose Montrezl Harrell. They're going to try to run it back. I don't think it's good enough, and it clearly wasn't good enough this year.
Yeah, they also don't have a true point guard, it feels like, most of the time on the floor, and you see that does matter, engineering stuff. Okay, finally, couple minutes here. LeBron's had to overcome Dan Gilbert, the big 3, a dynasty, flaky JR and Kyrie, injuries going into a final. Am I nuts? The sea is finally opening up for him. AD's healthy. He's rested because of COVID. He got time off. Kawhi's gone. Giannis is gone. Is he finally catching a break in the postseason?
Well, so here's the deal. Your point's well taken. Listen, LeBron, under normal NBA circumstances, has 5 or 6 rings already. The last 4 NBA finals he's lost have come to teams with 4 or 5 Hall of Fame players on them. Like, it's just been, what he's been up against is somewhat unprecedented, plus the Dellavedova year, plus the year after Kyrie when he had no help aside from an injured Kevin Love. That's all well taken. I do think, of course, the Bucks not living up to their potential potentially helps them, and the Clippers doing exactly what I thought they would potentially helps them. Should be noted that in 2020, like this calendar year, they beat the Bucks before the restart, before the season paused, and they beat the Clippers both times they played them. But we knew this was going to happen, right? The revisionist history of, oh, look at the easy path LeBron had. As if folks weren't, not that I'm going to name names, Colin Cowherd, picking Portland to beat them.
Yeah.
And as if when Houston was up 1-0, they weren't saying, you know, Harden, Westbrook, three-pointers, big team, doesn't shoot well for the Lakers. That could be tough. And so now the narrative will flip because for most people, their basketball analysis starts and ends with how can I discredit LeBron James. So I don't know if you, and I'll leave you on this, Colin, you can do those Google trend searches where it's like how often is something searched for. The word asterisk was a big subject of conversation right when the restart was getting going. Then when it looked like LeBron might lose, no one discussed it at all. Get ready for asterisk to come back into play here in the next few days. People are like, well, does it really count? I mean, if Miami's on the other side of the bracket, is this a real title? The thing is this. He was always going to win the title. This team was always the best team. They showed it throughout the regular season, and they've shown it throughout the postseason. I think the Nuggets are going to be an interesting matchup. The Lakers will clearly beat them. And the Heat might beat the Celtics, but I hope the Celtics win. Because LeBron, the one thing he's never done is sweep a team in the finals, and he'd do that to Boston. So you're right, ring number 4 on deck. That was happening anyway. It just got there a little differently than a lot of people expected.
Remember when I was your mentor? Remember those days? It was a respectful relationship.
Yeah, you used to have better takes.
All right, buddy.
What do you want from me?
You're fan.
See ya. Yeah. See ya, Joy. See you as well. Bye.
Bye, Nick. By the way, I can touch the net, and I'm 5'2", so no more disrespect to my vertical.
All right. Nick Wright. Nick Wright, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Wright. I'm going to take a break. Big Ten football's back. That makes me happy. It's the Herd. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.